Okay, so now that we've installed the Duplicator plugin, let's have a look at this. I've gone to the Duplicator section right here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to create a new package. And what this is, again, I explained that the Duplicator plugin is going to be automating some of these tasks that we would normally have to do in order to migrate a WordPress website. We're going to click on the Create New button right here. And what this does is this prepares to build a package that's going to contain all of your WordPress information. We see right here that it automatically fills this out with a little prefix here. This is today's date. And I can always click this to refresh this. If we try this again on a future date, we can refresh that and it'll be the current date. And it automatically appends this with the website name. You can change this to anything you want. You can add notes if you want. You could type in something here like, this is the backup that I did today, blah, 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 that sort of thing. But I tend to just leave this as is. Next, we're going to click the next button right here. We don't have to worry right now about these two things. There are some advanced settings inside here. I'm going to just leave this as is and just do a very, very simple package. Let's go ahead and click next. Before it actually builds the package, it's going to scan your site, okay? And that didn't take too long, depending on how big your site is. It's going to go through everything. And what it's doing is that it's going through and making sure that you're not going to run into any problems. It's kind of searching for potential issues. And what you want to see ideally is everything here you want to have green and say good. In this case, okay, we have, and this is deliberate, I did this on purpose because I wanted to demonstrate what happens when you get a warning, okay, right here. If you get a warning anywhere, you need to have a look at this. You can click on the drop-down menu right here, or the little drop-down icon, and this will give you a bit of an explanation as to what the warning is about, okay, and what you can do to fix it. Now, in this particular case, let's have a look here. I'm getting a warning for large files, and so let's find out what that means. It's large files such as movies or other backed up data can cause issues with timeouts. The current check for large files is 4 megabytes per file. In other words, if you happen to have any files on your website, whether maybe it's a large image file or a large audio or video file that is more than 4 megabytes, okay, in size, that's going to trigger this warning, okay? It does not necessarily mean that your migration won't work, okay? It's just a potential for some sort of a problem. Sometimes there are timeout issues that can happen with particularly large files, all right? So it says here, if you're having issues creating a package, consider excluding these files with the files filter and manually moving them to your new location. Now, if you want to see, in this case, I'm curious as to which file is more than 4 megabytes because I'm usually pretty careful about keeping my file sizes reasonable. So I'm going to click on Show Paths. And here we see, okay, it's a file, some sort of a cache file that is being generated by the WordFence plugin. So I'm not terribly concerned about that, and it's barely triggered it. We see that it's 4.19 megabytes right here. So I'm going to go ahead with that in mind, and also because I have experience using this plugin, I'm going to go ahead and run this regardless, okay? However, if I'm not successful with the migration, then I'll probably back up to this point and I'm going to follow these instructions on how to exclude those particular files and then manually move them over later. And so that's what I'm going to recommend you do. If you have some large files, and, assuming there aren't tons and tons of huge files, okay? If this was a huge, long list of massive files, I wouldn't proceed at that point. But if it's just one file and you're like, yeah, I think that's going to be okay, it's fine to just move on, okay? That's the only warning I received here. You might see some other warnings. For example, let's say you saw a warning under the WordPress settings here, okay? If you didn't have, see right here, it says WordPress version 4.0, and then they're saying it's recommended to have a version of WordPress that is greater than 3.7.0, so, and it's recommended you have that version for many reasons. But let's say that you happen to be running an old version of WordPress. They're going to tell you, hey, you really need to update that before you move forward, okay? So I'm going to leave that as is for now. Everything looks good. I can't go through every potential scenario that you might run into. I do know that the large files one is probably the one that you're most likely to run into, okay? And if you have a lot of large files, you might also run into the total size issue right here as well too, okay? The current thresholds, for example, here that trigger the warnings are 150 megabytes for the entire site. I'm at 123 megabytes, so I'm really pushing that. I'm actually getting kind of close to that. And for the record, I have gone ahead and used this tool even with sites that went well over the 150 megabytes threshold, and I was able to migrate everything with no problem. But this is just, this is just to be absolutely safe. So do be aware of that. Okay, so let's assume that everything is good to go and we're willing to live with that warning right there. I'm going to go ahead and close all of those. We've done the scan. All right, didn't take us too long. What we need to do now is we want to actually build the package. And the nice thing is this is just clicking a button. So let's go ahead and click this blue button, build. And this is going to take a little bit of time. While this is going, you need to leave this particular window open. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right now, and we'll pick this up once this package has been built. Okay, so the build is complete, and what I see here is I have two files that have been generated by this. This has created an installer file as well as an archive file. This took, on my computer and with my particular configuration, took less than a minute to do. It says process time 35 seconds here. Your build might take a little bit longer to do, or it might take a little bit less time, okay? If it's taking a long time, like you've been waiting 5-10 minutes, there might be something going on. I've never really had that happen unless it's a really huge site, but this is a fairly large site and it didn't take too long. So expect it to take, under 5 minutes. You'll see a page that looks like this. We want to download both of these files to our computer. So I'm going to go ahead and download this installer file. We don't want to actually open it. We want to just make sure that we are saving that file. This is just going to save or download to my default download directory, and that's fine. And the other thing I want to do is I want to download this archive file. Very important that you do not open this, okay? You don't want to go ahead and open this file. This is a zip file that you're downloading. This is the zip file that contains all of your website data, okay? You don't want to open this. We want to keep this zipped up, and so we want to just save file. Make sure that we are not opening with an archive utility. If you're on a PC, just make sure that you are just downloading this file as well, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and download both of these files, and the first one, the installer.php, that was almost instant. That was just 400K. It's not a huge file at all. This one is going to take a little bit longer. It's about 100 megabytes, and again, that makes sense because this is a whole bunch of information. This is all of the data, all of my media files, all of the information that make up my website is contained in this particular archive file. So it's going to take a little bit longer. It's telling me here 1 minute and 40 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video and we'll pick it up once it's done. Okay, so now the download is complete. I'll just see here. We've downloaded two files. That's the installer.php file as well as our archive file. And that didn't take too long. That took about 2 minutes to download. Again, depending on your internet speed and the size of your website, might take you a little bit longer. But the important thing is just to be patient. So let's have a look at where these files actually ended up. They downloaded for me in my default downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open these. And again, I mentioned before, you want to make sure that this file stays archived. Don't unzip this file, okay? Keep it together. And then the installer file is right here. Now, actually, at this point, you could pause. This is the point, say, like in the recipe, where if you needed to stop and put everything away, you can do that at this point, because what you've done now is you've actually created a kind of a perfect snapshot of your website, your existing website, as it is as of this date right here. Okay. And you could, in theory, you don't have to go and install this anywhere else right now. You could, in theory, just hang on to this. You could save this on your computer, okay, put it somewhere safe. I would actually create let's actually create a folder right here and say, archive. And we could actually put both of those inside there. And I'd probably give it a better name than just archive. We could give it the website name or something like that. And then you could hang on to this for when you are ready to install your website elsewhere. Okay, maybe you don't have a web hosting package yet. Maybe you want to wait a couple months, or you want to wait until there's a sale, and then you want to, once you're set up, then you want to migrate everything over. You can certainly do that. Okay, I'm going to move forward with the assumption that you are ready to move this to a new web server, and so that's what we're going to be doing starting in the next step.
If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. For ad-free versions of all my videos and other bonus content, check out my online courses at robobunny.com. Thanks for watching.